Hello again, everybody. Here I am back with Cassie, and we are here with more political astrology, what's in the news astrology, whatever you want to call it. And I'm Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl, and I offer consultations on my website, louiseeddington.com, but I also have two levels of membership that are finally kind of streamlined. I have the Spiral Weave, which you can access through a YouTube membership or through Substack membership. They both get the same access. And I also have a private membership community also on my website. But the Spiral Weave offers a once a month Ask Me Almost Anything call, bonus tarot spreads, and fun things. And the Nest is more for collaborative chart learning and interpretation as using your charts and charts in the news. So
I'm Kathy Biehl. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. I have weekly, new moon, full moon, and monthly forecasts at my site, also at my YouTube channel, which is Professional Aquarian. And I have a Patreon with snippy daily forecasts, very sassy, and also a monthly Ask Me Almost Anything and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, and
There
I
we go.
do new and full moon things as well here.
Right.
Or on Cosmic Owl Astrology if you're watching it on Kathy's. Anyway, today let's have Kathy do her usual rundown.
Well, all right. Pretty much everything in the collective news fits the astrology that we have been telling you about. There are now more than 190 lawsuits against Trump and this administration, consistent with Neptune having moved into Aries with spirituality, spiritual missions, spiritual warriors being on fire. We are seeing communities and also churches stepping up to protect immigrants that are being targeted. There are massive trouble brewing in the courts for this administration with what it's doing with the deportations. A number of cases are going to get up to the Supreme Court really, really quickly. But as it is right now, the ones having to do with people having been sent out of the country without hearings, and after a court said don't send anybody out of the country, that has made it to the appellate level with hell no you don't as the response. The birthright citizenship attempt to get rid of that, which is in the Constitution, that the Supreme Court has just decided to hear that. The widespread nature of what's going on with immigration fits Venus in Pisces conjunct the North Node and Saturn, which we'll talk about again in a minute. So there's this massive collective victimization and sacrifice going on by um, by government. That would be Saturn.
Mm.
Um, the economic instability is certainly a sign of Uranus moving into, not yet there, into a square to the U.S. moon. That's everybody. And Uranus being disruption and instability in the sign of money and banking and financial systems. And it's moving into a trine, which is a really easy flow with Pluto in the U.S. chart in our house of money. So for the next couple of months, there's going to be an ongoing look at what in the world is happening economically. That will be a huge factor. Um, there are a couple of other things that happened that we'll go into more, but one of them is just watch what's going on at the very beginning of Aries. Neptune is there. Mercury just met it as soon as Mercury back up. When Neptune first got there, Cory Booker pulled his all-nighter, his 25-hour talk, setting everybody on fire. When Mercury, the planet of communication, met Neptune, which was the day before we're filming this, so that would be on the 17th of April, uh, the Attorney General of New York State issued a firebrand speech, and we will look more into that. And at the end of the month, just looking ahead, well, no, one more thing. Mars, which rules our drive, our energy, people, self-expression. Mars is flowing right into that Neptune the weekend of the 19th and 20th, and by the end of the month, Venus goes there too. So we're seeing the fire getting stoked and stoked and stoked and stoked and stoked and stoked and stoked
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
stoked.
And my kind of take on all of that, really, just big picture, is that we're getting this massive convergence. There's a lot of revisiting things because Mars, Pluto, this is the third opposition. Venus is crossing Saturn and Neptune for the third time, sextiling Uranus for the third time. So things are all repeating, but we're having another mass flood of conversion, if you want to call it, really. After Mars roars back into Leo and that fire comes, it's like this baptism of fire and water to kind of
Mhm.
bring it all up. So Venus, where it's the moon is going to join as well on April the 24th, and that's also the day that Venus is at her maximum brightness as morning star Venus, which is more warrior Venus, and then she's going to move into Aries. So we've got this big release and rebirth, this big spiral of endings and beginnings. So a lot of kind of chickens are kind of coming home to roost in many ways. And to add to what Cassie said about Saturn kind of clamping down on people, it's also backbone and spine, and we're seeing a lot more people kind of stand up. And then in Aries, they're speaking up boldly, people we've looked at before, Cory Booker, of course, AOC and Bernie on their anti-oligarchy tour. I was lucky enough to go last Sunday in Salt Lake, where it's now estimated there was 25,000 people, and in a relatively, low population state compared to some, and a red state overall. And Montana, Idaho, Folsom, California, which is a red area, they've had mass turnout. And we've looked at their charts before, you can go back, but it's all kind of coming up now, all these things. So both their attempt to clamp down and
Mhm.
the rising up of people taking a stand and speaking up, in a
So
nutshell.
before we go into the blow by blow of what is coming astrologically,
Mm,
I would like to give an
mm,
overarching framework and just kind of point out that this is a week of cycles recurring and recurring and recurring all
mhm,
at once. It's like you can think of a whole series of gears that have been moving and they all shift at the same time. That's this week. And the big ones that I want to point out are one having to do with several having to do with breakthroughs and revelations and potentially shocking things. And that is the first of that is Venus in an opportunity aspect to Uranus, which she had on January 26th. The second one I want to point out is one of revelation. Mercury, planet of communication, in an opportunity aspect with Pluto, big money, secrets, power. Um, Mercury and Pluto made this aspect on March 25th when Signal Gate was broken, when the Atlantic broke the story about different people in the defense department and related positions having an unsecured chat about war plans. So there may be more about that coming back. This also coincides with the Doge whistleblower indicating that the National Labor Relations in a labor agency that he saw data being uploaded to Starlink and somebody from Russia with proper credentials trying to hack in. So there's more coming with that. So those are two. The third one Louise mentioned, which is Venus meeting Saturn, what we value, relationships, love, money, creativity, hitting Saturn, which is rules, adulting, consequences, and also the North Node where we're headed. Venus and Saturn met right before the inauguration. It was on January 18th and again on April 7th, and will happen again this next week. And at the same time, we've got another echo of how this administration coming into power, which is Mars, Lord of War, action in an opposition to Pluto, big money, power in the sign of technology. This opposition was exact on November 3rd. It happened again on January 5th. It happens again this week. So all of these things converge right now in this week, in this gauntlet of time, tying many things that we've already gotten some information about. And I would expect with this, the noise about hacking and election
Mm.
interference to roar back into discussion among many, many other things. So,
I do
Louise,
think it's important to mention with the Mars Pluto aspect, which is huge, of course, that the first one, 2 days before the election, was at the last degree of
hmm,
Cancer Capricorn. And the second one on January the 3rd was at 1 degree Leo Aquarius. And this one's at 3 degrees Leo Aquarius. So we've moved out of kind of the structures and safety and security of Cancer Capricorn into fire and air, which is very different. So and information.
mhm.
So I think it just adds to what's going to come out, we think. So
Oh yeah.
I think, yes.
So Louise has a really beautiful distillation of where this is,
Mm.
how this may play out with more aspects than I mentioned. I just wanted to mention all of these different recurring aspects, all recurring in the same week.
Mm. Well, I'm kind of not very clear where to start because I created it really kind of for my Venus class, and some of it we're past already.
And
But
we start on the 20th.
yeah, so let me kind of go back to it. So okay, the 20th. Well, well, I just kind of talked a lot about it, the flood of convergence, and that's really what I was talking about. But let me go back to the 20th. So I'm going to start with the 22nd, really, with the moon entering Pisces, because we do have the Venus Uranus awakening kind of aspect that's mentioned before that, and the Saturn conjunct North Node. That was destiny requiring structure, and the dream becoming a responsibility. That to me speaks really of us kind of having to take responsibility as well, and not being in this victim of everything's being done to us kind of mode. But also moving on, um, the moon enters Pisces, and there's emotional depth and gentle tides coming into this one. So, but we also have some asteroids, which I know people get a bit weird about me including them all, but I think they're important in this journey. There's Icarus. We've mentioned Icarus in the past because we've said these people are flying too close to the sun, meets Sappho. And to me, that's about kind of moving into this more poetic self expression, but also kind of sapphic, taking a stand for, those women and loving ourselves more. But then April the 24th is that big day, I have to say. Venus conjunct North Node is the heart aligning with the soul's path. Venus conjunct Saturn for you is commitment to self love, healing, and maturity. And it's square the galactic center. So this is very fate aligned. And then we have the moon coming in, just aspecting all the things in Pisces. Nessus, which is revealing abuses of power. Ceres, which is nurturing and nourishment. North Node, Saturn and Venus. So that's a collective emotional convergence. This is a real ancestral cleansing, and there's a lot of what I would call soul contracts coming, like reaching this crescendo, right? It's hugely emotional. And then we're also got Cassandra in the mix. Remember, she was the prophet who was not heard. The moon finally meets Cassandra at the very last degree of the zodiac. And this is time for these lost voices or suppressed voices to be heard finally. And then Cassandra enters Aries and Mercury meets Sappho. And then we have the new moon with the Mars Pluto opposition. So, just at a more kind of meta level, I would call it, this is really for you. I believe we work with the energies about stepping into your sovereignty and really beginning to embody and stand up for your values in so many ways. All these aspects are speaking to each other. It's been wild trying to track all these aspects in my Venus retrograde class that I ran. But I hope I did a good job, and I think I did from what I've heard. But the overall message is this big cosmic rebirth for all of us, and so but it's affecting all of us individually, and the message is to kind of get strong in your core and don't just wait for somebody else to save you, basically.
And everything that's happening with Aries is igniting stuff in each of
Oh,
us.
definitely.
Everything. I do have one more thing I want to say about that in a
Mm,
second, but also with the new moon in Taurus,
mm,
I suspect that I mean, my take on it this time around is that we'll be looking at collectively and also personally, what are our resources? How do we want
mhm.
to reshape and what do we want to nurture and have like we're rebuilding our gardens essentially. What are we
Yep.
planting into it? And I would expect that there will be big shifts in what is going on economically and in terms of what is passing for instinctive policy. I would think they're going to be big fallback, big ramifications, big changes
Mm,
growing out of this new moon. And for each of
mhm,
us, it's an opportunity to look at, okay, this is what's going on. What do I do? What do I do in my own little corner, in my own little room? For
mm,
those of you who heard the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella that was aired in the 60s with Leslie Ann Warren.
mhm,
Just dated myself. Um,
mm. I
but
agree. Yeah.
there's a simplifying, like what's most important? What can
Mhm.
you do? How can you make your garden grow?
And also on where you spend your dollars really as well, what's kind of most of value. Taurus is all those things. It's very rooted and in the senses and what fills your senses. One interesting comment we had on last week's video, I think,
Okay.
was somebody who was not siding with our apparent leader, but saying she felt that the tariffs had to happen in some ways because some people are seeing that they're buying these hugely overpriced things that they could have got for $10 in China because they're being made on the backs of
Mhm.
sweatshops. Not that I agree with these outrageous tariffs, but at least everything has a shine, and what you learn from it is what's important, right? So if you learn that you've been going after these she brands and things that were actually built on the back of sweatshops, then maybe that's something to look at.
And Venus conjunct Saturn in the North Node is certainly putting that information at our disposal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's also something about artists, creative rebellion, and
Mm,
I'd like to share my screen. I have mentioned this before. There is an organization, or it's actually really
mm,
a person behind this called Abatuk. I've got
mhm,
their website, abbetuck.com, Art Plus Activism, and it is
mhm,
filled with resources and really creative things that you
mm.
can do. And there's a Create to Liberate event going on the shot that went around, was heard around the world
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. But there's one the nationwide thing on here I want to point
Mm,
out to everybody because this is ongoing. It's called Project Mail Storm, and it's
mm,
flooding certain offices with envelopes. And
mm.
it's a really, really creative thing to do. I have sent my first wave out. I encourage you to look at this. And the person behind,
I also like the page where they give 66 ideas or something. There's lots of really creative ways to,
66 ways to
yeah.
creatively resist.
Hmm. Or
Yeah.
I prefer Rise Up, but anyway, yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah, I
his
know it's
website.
his website, yeah. But I will use in my head the word Rise Up.
Oh yeah, you do that. And hey, I led the toast at his wedding, so it's the first
Yeah.
wedding I've
Oh
been
no,
to.
I think it's an awesome website. I've been going through everything. I think we mentioned it last week, and I've been following some of his suggestions as well. And we mentioned the astrology suggested that we have to come up with new and creative ways to stand against or stand for what we want. So, yeah. Mhm. So, right, what are we looking at first?
Well, let's start with Letitia James. And the
Mhm.
reason I suggested her because I
Mm,
listened to the speech that she gave when Mercury was conjunct Neptune.
mm,
And this is her reaction to all kinds of budget cuts throughout and the effect they're going to have on people. She talked about
mm,
the lawsuit that she and 23 other members of other attorneys general are filing against the Trump administration for a whole bunch of reasons. And
mhm,
it's a call to action. It's a firebrand, and she really does in this speech, which you can find. She gave it. What is today? Today's the 18th, right? She gave it on the 17th. You can find it on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long. It firebrand, but I note, and it cannot be a coincidence that Neptune in the U.S. chart is associated with racism and
mhm,
wounds. We're going through wounds of what happened during the right before the Civil War and actually during the Civil War and during Reconstruction. And Neptune moves into Aries,
oh,
and the first call to action comes from a black man, and then
mm.
Mercury conjoins Neptune in Aries, and this firebrand
So,
speech comes out from a black woman. Cannot be a
mm,
coincidence.
yeah, and I've set this for the Mercury Neptune conjunction by the transit, but I would also briefly mention that I've heard many black astrologers say that Saturn is also often related to black people, and of course in Pisces, that can be victimization and things as well. So, there's a kind of a lot of that energy here. The first one thing that jumps out at me as we look at what's coming up is that when she made the speech, even if this is the night before, but Mars was at the degree of that first Mars Pluto opposition back on November the 3rd. I'm
Yes.
like, oof, oof. Talk about things coming back, you know? Pallas Athena, my lovely asteroid, is wise justice is on Chiron. In her chart, the shaman, the healer, and opposing her Uranus. She's like born with that opposition, like many of us. This is a solar chart, by the way. We don't have
Right. We don't know her
the time
birth
of birth.
time.
Yeah.
Well, going back to what you said about Mars, all right, so
Mm,
Mars is now moving through her solar 10th house, her most public
mm,
house. And as it moves into Aries, I'm sorry, into Leo, it is going to be setting off all of that lovely Libra that she has. It will
mhm,
be, and it's going to square her. First thing it's going to do is going to square her. It's currently squaring her Neptune. It's currently,
mhm.
well, as soon as it moves, let me back up. We've got Pluto squaring her uh,
Mercury
Mercury
and
and her
Neptune.
Neptune. And as
Yeah.
Mars goes forward by mid-May, it's going to square her Jupiter. So she's only going to ramp up more and more and more.
Mm, I think so too. Yeah, for sure. With this opposition, Mars, Pluto coming up. It's the 26th, the exact opposition. I could get it to it. We'll all square this. I like to include Haumea, which is a dwarf planet, which is regeneration and rebirth, because Pluto and Haumea are in a decade-long square. Really, they're doing 13 squares. They started in 2022, but there is one more Mars Pluto opposition earlier than usual because they're about every 27 months. And that's coming next early October and the same degree as this one, Mars Pluto opposition. And I kind of, looking at her chart, I kind of think, something will emerge from this opposition that may, courts move slowly,
Oh,
come to fruition next year.
before people get, yeah, next year,
Mhm.
this is October of 2026
Yeah, but
that
but
Louise
they're
is
at the
talking about.
same but they're at the same degree. So let me just, I'm not going to, I just think things are going to emerge from this final opposition of Mars and Pluto in this series, which is exact on April the 26th. I think something's going to, be finished by next October. So, with her being in the role she's in, this, I think she's probably going to be, bringing charges and speaking all kinds of things. Yeah. Do you?
And again, by next, it's not October 25, it's October 26th. Just
Yeah.
want to clear up the potential linguistic
Yeah.
confusion here.
October 3rd. What did I say?
You
Guess
said
what I
next
said?
October, and some people are going to think
Oh,
October
oh,
2025.
sorry. I
No,
meant to
we're
say
talking
next year.
October
Yeah.
2026.
Sorry, everybody. Neptune is squaring all my stuff. So,
But there's one other thing I want to point out that's going
Oh,
on with
I do
this.
want to say that this is on her Vesta as well, which is the state.
Hmm.
It's literally the flame that keeps the state together.
Oh, and
Yeah,
she's on fire about Head Start
yeah.
being shut down in Bedford-Stuyvesant, but that
Mm-hmm,
Head Start programs being defunded and
mm-hmm,
the heating programs, that's all protecting members of the state. I would
mm-hmm,
like to draw attention to Jupiter at 20 degrees Gemini in the eighth house.
mm-hmm,
Jupiter is in a trine, unbroken flow, to her Venus, April 14th through 18th. So it was in a flow
mm-hmm,
to her Jupiter. Then it's going to trine, unbroken flow, her North Node, her path of destiny, what she came here to do, May 4th through 8th. And then in mid-May, it's going to trine her Sun. This is someone who's only getting started with what she's doing.
But it's also going to oppose her Saturn.
What do you make of that?
Well, Saturn, the rules, upholding the rules and the truth, in Gemini and Sagittarius, courts as well related, the judge, Jupiter. But to add to that, we've mentioned many times that, things are coming around that began a while back. Jupiter stationed retrograde at 21 degrees of Gemini, opposing her Saturn. So
Hmm.
when would that have been? So that would have been October the 9th. It didn't quite exactly oppose her Saturn. But what this means with this next opposition that's coming, oh, sorry, I should have wanted to get to the opposition, is that Jupiter will be done all the retrograde stuff, have recovered all the degrees of all this news coming out that she wants to deal with. And then I think that's her kind of standing up and saying, no, Saturn can be a big, strong no, and saying, we're not going to do this. So when is the opposition? Exactly. Let's have a look. May the 1st. We've got a big demonstration for May Day, Workers' Day, of course. So on that day.
Well,
So
there are two other things I'd like to add to this. One
mm-hmm,
of them is
mm-hmm,
in June, Jupiter is going to move into Cancer. And as it does that, it will pump up her Mercury, her Neptune, her Jupiter, moving through the solar ninth house of litigation and legal matters. Now,
mm-hmm,
thing two, DOJ is trying to go after her for mortgage fraud. So
oh,
the retaliatory charges are on the way. So she'll be fighting with her own stuff. But my money's on her.
yeah. Oh, that Pam bonding. Maybe we need to look at her chart sometime. there's many other aspects as well that are kind of happening. The Mars Pluto opposition at 3 degrees is also making, well, Pluto is making an ongoing aspect of adjustment to her natal Pluto. So that means Mars is semi sextile to her natal Pluto in Virgo. Being a Pluto in Virgo person, I can tell you, we like to do the right thing. We like to get to the detail and do the right thing. So, this is a big transformation for her. There's lots of other aspects I could talk about, but
Well, and
my
then other
money's
big
my
stuff,
money's on her too.
right? Other big stuff coming. You'll notice that
Mhm.
Uranus in the eighth house of mortgages and
Mm,
other people's money and hidden and crimes and whatever. Uranus is heading toward, it's not currently aspecting any of her planets, but in July it's going to move into Gemini and it's going to start
mhm.
an approach to that Mars. So whatever they're doing, it's not going to just disappear.
Of course it isn't, because they're trying everything. So, but yeah, but yeah, she's powerful, and I still have to go and listen to that speech. I missed it because I've been knee deep in the Venus class. But
Well, if anybody needs
mhm,
inspiration, if you need your own shot of
mm,
because it starts out and you just get angrier and angrier at her detailing of what has just happened. But then her response turns it into one giant hell no, we're coming at you.
there's
You'll
that
feel very
Saturn.
good. You'll feel very
Oh.
good.
Okay, so I my choice of chart to look at this week was another person in the news who the Judge Boasberg, is that how we say his name? Anyway, let's look at his chart on his own, because he's kind of the one saying he can hold the administration in contempt, and of course he's being threatened as well by the other side. Of course anybody that stands up is being threatened, so we don't, that goes without saying. But this guy is really, I think, really powerful with the news. His Mercury is right on the south node of the USA for a start. Okay, so you know, speaking and speaking up for the outcasts, you could say, in or the people in Aquarius. But also look at his nodes. His nodes are at the degree of the last Mars Pluto opposition, with the next one coming up. And that's in Cancer and Capricorn. That's about enforcing the rules and the man made laws, if you like, and the rule of law. And so he's bloody determined to do it, with his
And
moon in
Mars has been
Capricorn and Venus in Capricorn as well.
and Mars is has been on his north node. So
Mm-hmm.
he's
Yeah.
been
Mm-hmm.
protecting his country,
Yeah.
essentially. Protecting his
Yeah.
country, and Mars is going to move into, he's going to have a Mars return, and Mars is going to, so his natal Mars will be opposing Pluto in the sky, heading toward his natal Mars. He is not going to
Mm-hmm.
back down.
Yeah.
Because
So
for one
just to
thing, he's
show
right.
everybody, Mars, he is right. So Mars has just moved into Leo, but it's been on there while he's been in the news. Um, Pluto by transit is in orb, I would say, of his Mercury, even though Pluto's going retrograde in early May. But Pluto transits are really long. So he's determined to dig up the dirt kind of thing in many ways, and the shadow. But Jupiter, back to Jupiter again. We've just talked about Jupiter going out of that shadow of the retrograde, in his fourth house, which is basis solar first, fourth house, no time again, basis of security, but also his inner self is square his Jupiter, and Jupiter is the judge in many ways.
Mhm.
So he's again adding to that. His determination is huge, in many ways. And all this Aries stuff, if we look at the solar houses, with everything will move into that. And we had the Mercury Neptune conjunction right on the cusp of his second house. That's standing up for values as well, and his own self-worth as well, in many ways. This is his my value as a judge almost is going, I'm not going to capitulate like some people have.
I have three things having to do with timing. The
Hmm.
first is that the March 29th solar eclipse took place on his Eris in the second house. So
Hmm.
he has boldness like, we're fighting.
Hmm.
We are gonna
Yeah,
fight. So
yeah.
that's thing one. Thing two, he will have his Mars return will be in the second week of May. So Mars in the sky will hit his Mars in
Hmm.
May. And then in September, there will be a lunar eclipse on top of his Jupiter. So
Mm.
something is going to come to culmination for
Mm.
him in
Well,
September. Just a
yeah,
thing to watch. That's a bit
yeah.
far out, but
So his conjunction, yeah, May the 7th. But just to talk about these retrogrades again, Mars will have passed the degree it retrograded at that point. So we'll be kind of treading new ground. So new things emerge when, I don't talk about the shadow like some astrologers do, but there is something about after a planet crosses the degree it was retrograde at where new things start happening. So both Jupiter will be treading new ground, Mars on his Mars return will be treading new ground. There's all kinds of things coming up. He's not going away either. Uh,
his Jupiter in the sky will be trining Pallas Athena in the sky exactly. Um,
mm,
well.
mm-hmm.
So, what do I mean by that? Well, I'd say he's got several female
Oh,
judges on the
oh yeah,
court that will be ruling for him. However, more, I don't know, but
yeah, yeah.
and because it's also, I mean, there's if you look at, there's all this stuff going on in the late degrees. Um,
By transit or in his chart.
by
Yeah.
transit on that
Hmm.
day.
Yeah,
On
there
that
is.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Uranus and the moon, Uranus and the nodes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there will,
And just
it's
a
going
little
to be uphill.
astrology nugget for those that are less aware of astrology. Most people that know about the solar return that we have every year, which is when the sun comes back to where it was when we were born at the very degree and minute. We also have other planetary returns, and a Mars return sets a kind of a stage, if you like, for the next 22 months. It's another cycle beginning. And so, he's, I think he's determined to kind of show up in some ways. If we just go to the transits, this is his Mars return chart. I would ignore the houses, but if we look at all these aspects on it, this is his determination for the next 22 months. So, it's a real big new cycle. Oh, I love that his moon and south node are in Virgo for the whole year, doing the
Yeah.
right thing for the people, the moon, and almost like, you know, like this is kind of my purpose right now. So,
And being squared by Jupiter, so it's just bigger and
mhm,
bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger
yeah,
and
yeah,
bigger.
yeah. So, don't get too wound up in that, but I just wanted to emphasize how for listeners that is, that having a Mars return is quite a big thing. So sorry, it's jumped back now. So we'll go here.
So I leave it
So
to you guys out there
mm,
to see if there is some greater meaning behind the fact that one person whose chart we looked at has the last name James, and that the other person has the first name James. So you can go run around and try to figure out the higher meaning of the name James. That's
I,
your task. I hand it
I,
over
fi-
to you.
I kind of find it quite funny that some people call him Jeb as well because that's one of the Bushes.
Oh,
and what
that's his
and
initials.
he but he was nominated first by one of the Bushes, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
he's a
and
conservative judge, really.
well, look
So
at that. I
mhm.
mean, come on. If you've got Venus and the moon in Capricorn, this is someone who is enormously practical.
Oh, very,
Enormously.
very. Yeah, and he's of that Pluto Mars, sorry, Pluto Uranus generation as well. We've mentioned that many times that were born at the time in the early 60s, mid 60s, civil rights, all that kind of thing. They, you know, that generation fought for this, whether they're fiscally conservative or not, it doesn't matter. They're of that kind of like fighting to undo the you know, the traumas of the US history, really. So you know, he's not going to give in to these migrants having their um due process and things taken away from them. He's just not.
Well, point
Yeah.
of information, this is a constitutional right. It's a
Hmm.
constitutional right. It doesn't matter. Even if they're criminals, you have constitutional rights.
Yep.
Everyone does.
Not to mention that most of them are not, but anyway, or have
No,
not been proven to be, so shall we
no,
say.
no.
Yeah. So, you know, it's I know it's still chaotic out there. You know, I would kind of love to just briefly just go back to all this convergence in Pisces again. It's bringing all this confusion, the lies, the gaslighting. Homan, the DHS guy, was on CNN last night. I briefly saw him, and he was basically saying it had been proven that Garcia was in this gang. Well, you know, there's actually, you know, no evidence that we've seen of that. And he's never been convicted of a crime in this country for 15 years. But also, he didn't get his due process. He was shipped out.
Which is the
You
case
know,
for
so
so many of these people.
they're just kind of lying and saying, you know, this is what's happening when, so you know, ignore, basically. I just don't listen to what they say anymore, really, because it's all obfuscation. I love that word. I can never quite say it, but it's a good one for what they're
Obfuscation. Yeah.
doing. Yes, that's the one. Yeah. So, you know, but as usual as well, with all this Pisces energy as well, lots of self-care, lots more creative ways of rising up. So if all you can do is go to the website of Kathy's friend and send those letters, send those mailings. You know, Kathy likes mailing things.
I do.
I never mail anything, so I'll be probably just be doing the 5 calls and all the and
Mhm.
going to Bernie rallies and things like that.
Everybody has their own way of doing it.
Exactly. Everybody has their lane, but there's loads of suggestions on that site. But I do think we have to be creative. And one other thing is, I will say, is huge events planned for tomorrow. So, you know, with this, particularly with this Mars Pluto opposition coming up, we'll be feeling it already. There will be some reactivity and probably some forces out there. At the Bernie rally on Sunday, we had a few of them. We had a couple of trucks going by, you know, with their flags on and things like that. Just ignore them. Don't rise up to their um, uh, attempts to get a rise out of you. Just be joyful and creative. And it kind of just takes the steam out of their fight, right?
It does, it does. I've been looking increasingly at what we're dealing with is the C students, mediocrity just on the hoof everywhere you turn. These are These are just compare and contrast Harvard's response to
Oh,
the executive order for it. They revamped their website. They showed how federal funds have fed this research, that research, that
hmm
research. Um, in many instances recently, this administration has picked the wrong enemy. I would say Harvard is one. It's got a
hmm
very, very scorpionic chart. It was formed in the 1600s, I think 1638. It owns its land. Okay, yeah. Those of
hmm
you who are
And
into
it's
Illuminati,
also it also has some very wealthy donors. So even if he
well, duh.
manages to withhold some federal funding, you know, they're going to stand. And yeah, the Illuminati, yeah,
Well,
they get people.
they've already got wave one, two, and wave three. Wave two is okay, we'll have the IRS revoke your tax exempt status. That is illegal. You cannot do that. And well,
hmm
so that means court battle was what that means. And then secondly,
hmm
the Department of Homeland Security wants to revoke the visas for all the foreign students there. That's kind of a constitutional issue as well. So more court battles.
hmm
192 cases so far.
There's going to be more, no matter what.
Be more.
Yeah.
What a use of resources. And then the other thing is that, that there's an ongoing issue of some law firms having caved to pressure and other ones
Mm.
not. People I know in Houston said, no, you don't, buddy. They represented Dominion voting systems. And as soon as news, they got a ruling against, a judgment against Newsmax. This executive order
hmm
came out revoking their security clearances, revoking their permission to walk into federal courts. And I said on Facebook, they picked the wrong people. And within two
hmm
days, 64 page, no, actually, immediately, like within an hour, they had a 67 page, 64 page petition with
Mm.
7 pages of defendants. And within 2 days, they got a temporary restraining order. And there will be more, and there will be more, and there will be more. So
Yeah. And
focus on those things.
definitely, and I have one other thought with the Mars Pluto opposition on the 26th. I people are always going, so when will it end? When will it end? I know you'd like a definite date, but as you can see, there's so many factors, right, in this, and project all these people that are in the administration, they've been planning this for a long time. But I do think that the Mars Pluto opposition could be really the beginning of kind of things really falling apart. So, don't
I've
you?
been saying that. I'm with you completely on
hmm
that.
hmm
The fact that there is now somebody saying, I saw Doge send stuff to Starlink and people in Russia try to get it, tie that back to November 3rd. You can read between the lines what I'm saying here.
hmm
It's just going to get more and more and more. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention um, in the Mercury traveling with Pluto department, Anonymous broke into Kremlin databases and dumped a terrific amount of
Oh, did
information
they?
on BlueSky this week,
Oh,
tying
I'm gonna look that one up. I missed
many
that.
people and entities in this country to Kremlin activities. Oh, shocked, shocked, I know. Anyway,
Oh,
we all have our own role to
so
play in this. We're not
we
stuck.
do.
And
No.
be of good cheer, do things that are fun, do some stuff. And remember, this is the
hmm
weekend of rebirth. It's the weekend of
hmm
rebirth. So you go for it.
And if all you can do is send an email or make those 5 calls, just do that. Okay.